Hey everybody, welcome to Ramsey's Rockin' Roads. Another episode here. We're in Santa Maria, California. Beautiful sunny day, Waller Park. Couldn't be a nicer day out here. This episode is going to be kind of the sequel to episode 7 when we were talking about the psychology of the customer. And I just want to dive into that a little bit more as far as the giving part of that we talked about, and I'll give you a little recap on what we talked about as far as, and I gave you guys a couple funny examples of how we go out regularly and pave $100,000 driveway and no mention of the driveway, but we trampled some daisies, and we go out and we fix the daisies and we get glowing reviews on Yelp, glowing reviews on Google because we fixed the daisies. No mention of the asphalt driveway, but that's just how it is. That's how it is. And this is why Shane and I have been talking about this for so long, about doing a giving episode and getting a little bit more in depth into the neuroscience of it, the psychology of it, the quantum physics of it, I guess we can say, even though I'm no scientist and I don't really even know what quantum physics are. I'm just really repeating other people that are a hell of a lot smarter than I am. So anyways, let's jump right into it. So there is in the neuroscience world of things, there's this thing called giving, and there's this thing called PMA, positive mental attitude. Well, why am I using neuroscience and synonymous with PMA and giving? Well, back when Napoleon Hill started studying, and back when the psychologists Nietzsche and William James and all these guys were starting to research PMA and the impact, the science wasn't there to back anything up. They knew something was happening, they just didn't know where it was coming from. Was it divine intervention? Was it, what was it? Nobody knew. Well, now there's actually proof of the neuroscience of things. So scientists on the neuroscience level of thing have actually done studies where when you have a positive mental attitude and you have a giving attitude and an attitude of gratitude, your body actually, the energy that comes from your body is different, and it radiates, and it has an impact on you physiologically and everybody around you that you touch. But now watch out, because the opposite is true. Now, one study that has been done, Les Brown talks a lot about, is anger. Fear or anger. Let's talk about that for a second. Now, I don't know what scientists have done this, but they've actually taken the blood from an angry person and injected that blood from an angry person into a boar, and it is a wild pig, and it is so acidic that the pig cannot live. It actually will perish right then and there. It is so acidic. So it's not a matter of it's something nice to say, it's something good to say. It's a matter of life and death, being and having a positive mental attitude, and the act of giving. Now, when it comes to giving, Napoleon Hill talked about in his laws of success, he mentioned several times about going over and beyond, doing more that's expected of you. That's part of his 17 laws of success. One of his 17 laws of success is exceeding expectations, going over and beyond, giving. Well, why is that? Well, I'm going to get into that more later on in this episode. But I want to share a couple stories with you, and then go on to something that's kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. But so back in the day, and I'm going to share a couple very touching stories with you guys. Back in the day when I had absolutely nothing and I was starving, and I couldn't get a job or sell a job to save my life, I got a call, and this goes back nearly 20 years. I got a call from a gentleman at the city of Santa Maria, and he said, "Hey Scott, I've got a really, really good friend that needs asphalt services, but he can't get anybody out there to look at his property." Well, I'm the starving asphalt contractor. I'll take anybody's work. And I said, "Yeah, of course, let's go." Well, we met this entrepreneur at his place of business, and he ran a pawn shop. And then on the other side of the pawn shop was an adult business. You know, plain and simple. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's no different than me working for the casino. It's no different than me working for a liquor store. I work for a liquor store and I go in and buy a Diet Coke. I'm not contributing to alcoholism. Maybe people shame me for buying, at that liquor store because they sell alcohol, or I do lots of work for the casinos. And people would say, well, I'm contributing to alcoholism, prostitution, gambling, drug addiction. Not really. I'm out there servicing my customer, doing their lot. Now, if there are people that have, gambling addictions, not my business. I'm just out there serving my customer. Now, that business is none of my business. That literally, their business is none of my business. And so the reason I bring up the story about Steve Diamond is because people judged him based upon the businesses he owned. Now, Steve Diamond grew in a very, very short period of time. He grew to be one of my most dearest friends. He was one of those guys where he could call me for anything and I would drop what I was doing for him. And it was reciprocated. Now, there's a lot of people that I say that are my friends, but not like Steve Diamond. Steve Diamond was 100%, it was 100% reciprocated. And if I called him for something, he would drop what he was doing. I remember many years back, it was 2008, 2009, and I couldn't make payroll. You got it, you guessed it. The guy that I called to help me make payroll was Steve. And I said, Steve, I got a couple of dump trucks here that I've got paid off. You can have the title. He's in the pawn business. You have him as collateral. Scott, what do you need? Told him what I needed, and it was a substantial amount of money. I think it was probably close to $25,000. I don't care who you are. Even me right now in my life, $25,000 is a hell of a lot of money. I called him up, Steve, I can't make payroll. Can I borrow money? I got a couple trucks. I'll pre-write a check for you. Cash it in 2 weeks. I've got the money coming. It's just the check's in the mail. Contractors, you guys know, you guys feel my pain. The check's always in the mail. And without question, without hesitation, without taking my truck for collateral, without anything, he said, Scott, meet me at the pawn shop. He wrote me a check, and obviously I got him paid back within a couple weeks. Now, that was a relationship, a deep relationship that lasted until Steve passed away a few years ago. And he was an amazing guy. His businesses, being a thug pawn guy, not him. Being a pervert adult store owner, not him. He was the sweetest, kindest, gentlest guy you'd ever meet. He would take, literally, one of those guys that would take the shirt off his back to help you out. And he'll be very missed. Another story that I wanna bring up, and this story it goes back to a period of time when I didn't have anything. Literally, I didn't have anything. And a contractor that we were doing pavement for, a big general contractor at the time, called me up and they said, hey Scott, we want to do some donation work at the girls softball field in Santa Maria, and we're going to do the dirt work. We're going to do the base rock. We're going to put the header board in. All you got to do is come in and pave. Can you donate it? I agreed, because all of you paving contractors know they're doing the hard part. Really, and I kept telling them as the job was progressing, they were thanking me profusely, and I said, guys, you are doing the hard part, and so they, to them, they liked the dirt work. To me, I liked the paving, and so they were doing all the excavation. It was pumping. They had to figure out the pumping, and it was they had to reroute sprinkler lines. To me, it was a complete nightmare. They got it ready for me. All I had to do was show up and pave. Well, that was my part of the donation. But this was at a time when I didn't even know how I was going to be able to pay for the asphalt. I didn't even know how I was going to be able to pay for the trucking. I didn't even know how I was going to be able to pay the guys, the labor to put the asphalt down, but I still agreed to do it. I was giving at that point in my life. I was doing something that, and this is before I had even heard of a Napoleon Hill. This is long before my studies had taken me to where they are now. And as most people might think, I was doing a foolish thing. Scott, you're agreeing to donate a job that you can't afford to pay for the asphalt, you can't afford to pay for the labor, you can't afford to pay for the trucking. What kind of fool are you? But I still agreed to it. We did the job. Somehow, like I said, this is part of the energies of the world that we can't explain. We know there's something going on here, we just can't explain it. But this is part of that world where the guys got paid. Obviously, the guys got paid, the trucking was paid, the asphalt was paid. No questions asked. How it happened, I couldn't tell you. But something more profound happened. 2 weeks after we did the job, I got a call from soon to be another dear friend of mine who called me and said, Scott, this is Rich, call me back. I don't know who Rich is. Left a voicemail on my phone, called him back, and he said, hey, Scott, you don't know who I am. My name is Rich. You just paved out there at the softball field for the girls' softball field. And I said, yeah, that's true. And he says, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I said, oh, you're welcome. I mean, I got a lot of thanks. They actually put up a sign that said Ramsey Asphalt, donated by Ramsey Asphalt, and the Deanne who did the dirt work, they got accolades for it as well. But something here happens that was very, very powerful, and it had such an impact on me to where ever since then, I've been giving. So Rich called me and said, Scott, you don't understand. My mother, that is the first time my mother has been able to watch her granddaughters play softball. She's confined to a wheelchair. She never could make it to the softball field. Just simply by you paving it, she was able to see her granddaughters play softball for the first time. And it had as we all tear up here, it had such a profound impact on my life to where I didn't know what was happening. From a neuroscience, I was so immature, I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that it was important. Just the point of giving. Didn't know why. So time goes on, and I'm continuing to do what I do. And I walk into my accountant's office, and on his wall and I'm not going to name names, he has a famous financial guru who holds seminars and helps people, and I'm sure he helps people all over the world. But I read he has like a 7-step program. Now this 7-step program starts out with get yourself out of debt. All right, we all want to be out of debt. Pay your house off. Okay, pay your bills. Get 10% in the bank. All the basic stuff that we're taught that seems always unachievable, right? And at the very bottom, after you get money saved, you get stocks, you get all of this security, the very last item was start giving. Philanthropy. It really, really seriously rubbed me the wrong way. And every time I went into my tax accountant's office for several years, he would hand me a piece of paper because he was really promoting this guy. And I mentioned to somebody in his office, the next time he hands that to me, I'm going to crumple it up and tell him to go use it as toilet paper. And they were really put off by that. They say, why? We love that guy. And I said, because his 10th step should be the first step. Okay? Now that's my opinion, and I'm here living proof that that is true. You have to give before you get. You're not going to get that stock account without giving. You're not going to get that financial security without giving. You're not going to build your business without giving. You're not going to build your career without giving. I said in the last episode, whenever there's a problem I have with money, family, friends, business, whatever, I come out here to Waller Park. I think that's why I picked this place to be for these episodes of the podcast, because I hold this place dear to my heart. I come out here and I meditate. Play Frisbee golf sometimes by myself, pick up garbage by myself. It's highly meditative. And that's just my way of giving in a very, very, very insignificant way. Now, I'm able to give more and more as the companies grow. I'm able to give more, and I'm able to give more of myself. And I feel like these podcasts are me giving of myself. And so recapping on what I said a few minutes ago, I feel like the giving part is definitely the first part. Now, let's talk about PMA for a second. A positive mental attitude. Now I feel it's all one and the same. Positive mental attitude, gratitude, giving, being grateful for everything, being grateful for the good, being grateful for the bad. Like Les Brown says, and I think Les Brown got this from somebody, we have life. You have the high times and you have the low times. The high times and the low times, they're just culprits. You got to watch out for those guys. You got to watch out for the good times. You got to watch out for the bad times. Consistency, level, flat. And so that's something I kind of laugh about. But talking about PMA, I've been accused. People have actually accused me. I've had family members accuse me, and they say, "Well, Scott, it's sure nice to be you. You know, you're happy and you're successful, or you're happy because you're successful." That's actually not true. I'm successful because I'm happy. Plain and simple. I'm successful because I maintain a very positive attitude in in a market and in a job that some might consider ludicrous. I mean, all of you paving contractors out there that are watching this, or all you concrete contractors that are watching this, I mean, our business model is not the brightest, and I think I've talked about this in other episodes. Our business model is probably not the brightest business model in the bunch. We're highly leveraged with equipment, we're highly leveraged with materials, and we're highly leveraged with skilled labor. I mean, it's the trifecta of double whammy. There aren't really many other businesses out there where you have the trifecta of tough. I mean, we're relying upon equipment. We're relying upon equipment. We're relying upon equipment that breaks consistently. We're relying upon vendors that keep our account open when we're past due 30 days. And we're relying upon employees that'll jump ship for 1 penny per hour more. I mean, we're in a market that's tough, and you have to stay positive. Like I said in the last episode we did, I gave you guys the analogy of the torpedo in the airplane. The torpedo goes off course quite often, but we always have to come back. We always have to come back to, as long as we're going forward, we're off course a little bit, because that's part of life. Life is going to take us off course constantly. We have a guy that quits. We have a supplier that puts our account on hold. All of these things that happen to us every day. We can't find that right guy. We can't, we can't find that right person in the office. Unhappy customer, rock pockets here, the seal coat's flaking there, the seal coat's not sticking to an oil spot. All the crazy things that we hear day to day. And that is just our little torpedo to get us off course. But, having a positive mental attitude and acknowledging that I'm going to continue to give. I'm going to continue to give of myself. If I have to go out there to that customer, like we mentioned in episode number 7, and if I have to go out there with a broom and a shovel, act like I'm doing something, jump in my truck, and then they thank me, hey, they send me a text as I'm leaving the driveway, hey, thanks, you did a great job for sweeping that up. I didn't sweep anything up. I just got out, made an appearance, and I got in my truck and left. But they don't know that. That's the part of the giving. And that's the part that kind of keeps nature and these rules that I talked about in the last episode. There are definite rules that we have to that we have to abide by. And the gap between success is very small, and the gap between failure is very small. We're always right on the cuff. There's been books, 3 Feet from Gold. Napoleon Hill has several books about it. People giving up at the 11th hour. People giving up literally 3 feet from gold. And now I coined it, and I told somebody, I can't remember who it was, but recently, and I actually sent a text telling them that I didn't agree. They were closing the doors, and I told them literally I didn't agree with their decision because I felt like they were 3 feet from gold, but the decision had already been made, and that was the decision that they were going to make. Oh, I do remember, it was a vendor, and they said, hey, we're getting out of this business and we're going to focus on our other business. And I told him, after 3 years worth of struggle, you're giving up at this point, and I didn't agree with it. Now, what they're going to do at this point, I have no idea, but I just feel like people give up really, really too soon. I'm going to repeat myself, and I don't mean to be a broken record, but What does your business look like when it's done? If you believe it and you can see it, then you absolutely can achieve it, and it has to come to fruition. Now, let's talk a little bit more about why it works. The actual science of how can it possibly be that works by just simply giving. How are we doing on time? 20 right now? Okay, cool. Now let's talk about how does it work? How does giving work? Let's actually talk about the science behind it. Now, in nature, there can't be any empty voids. This is something that we know from nature. Everything has a purpose. There can't be a vacuum. There can't be voids. There can't be, that just can't, it's an impossibility. It just can't be. Energy goes back to origination, the energy that we have. For example, we eat an apple. Well, that apple, nature gave us that apple. That apple came from a tree, and nature did all it had to do to make that apple. And I'm talking to you very scientifically right now, that nature did what it had to do to make that apple. Well, there's energy stored in that apple, just waiting for us, or waiting for the birds, or waiting for the raccoons. There's energy in that apple. We eat that apple, we absorb that energy, then that energy is expelled from us by me talking, me walking, me working, and then energy goes back to source. Well, why does the giving part work? And how? And people are proving it every day. I'm living proof of it myself. The giving part works is because when you give of yourself, you give of something, you're creating a vacuum, you're creating an empty space, you're creating a funnel in the universe that we call energy, in this universe that in the quantum physics of things, in the neuroscience of things, you're actually creating a funnel that has to be filled. And that's why I get a smile on my face. I had a whole episode on callbacks. Contractors dread callbacks. I love it. I encourage it. Because when somebody asks of me something that's over and beyond the scope of duty, I know that I'm creating a vacuum. I know that I'm creating an empty space in this universe that has to be filled with something. The universe has to right itself. Now, the opposite is true. If I take advantage of somebody, if I steal from somebody, if I short pay one of my guys, the universe, I'm creating a vacuum, I'm creating an empty space in the opposite direction, which is going to work negatively toward myself. It's going to have a negative impact on my life. But that same, some religions, some cultures call it karma, call it what you will, but let's just call it empty space, call it a vacuum, call it a void. That void can't be left undone. It has to be filled with something. You do wrong by somebody, that wrong has to be righted. I do right by somebody, that right has to be repaid back. I do wrong, that wrong has to be repaid back. That right has to be paid back. Now, the one thing that I personally have proven to myself, the wrongs come back tenfold. So let's use money. Money is one of those things that's super tangible. You can touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it. Money. If I steal $1, and I've actually proven this to myself, I don't intentionally go out there and steal, but I have proven this to where if I steal $1 from somebody, I'm going to have to give back 10 in return. That's just the way it works. It's very much multiplied. Now look at it from the other aspect. The farmer goes out, plows the field, does all he has to do in order to plant the hay. He plants one seed of hay or one seed of wheat. He gets 1,000,000 wheats in return to give up, to overcompensate for our intelligence of being humans, I guess. So nature punishes us and rewards us in exactly the same way. I've just found in my life, I'm trying to think of an example of something that I'll give you guys, and I may have talked about this in one of the prior episodes, but one of my guys, we did a job many, many years ago and at a police station, and one of my guys backed up into a trailer, into one of the surveillance trailers and scratched it, and I knew about it. I didn't say anything to anybody. And the PD actually called and asked about, hey, do we know about it? I heard the girls talking, And it was a lie by omission, because I didn't actually come out and say, no, we didn't do anything. I just kept my mouth shut. And the girls were like, oh, no, nothing's been reported. It wasn't us. And they just said, okay, thank you very much. Well, that grew on my conscience. And I probably had the worst 2 weeks of my life. We had a truck blow up. We had a truck breakdown. We had a clutch go out. And I just knew that there was this bad cloud, this bad karma that was following me around. So I got up one day, didn't tell anybody what I was going to do. I drove down to the PD. I asked for the high, I don't know, sergeant, lieutenant, all that stuff. I just asked, who's the highest ranking officer here right now? And I think it was a lieutenant. I gave him my business card and I said, 2 weeks ago, we were out here paving your back lot. I just found out that my guy scratched one of your trailers, which was, I have to admit, was a lie, because I knew about it from the beginning. I said, I found out that we scratched your trailer. Let me know what the cost is. We'll get it repaired. We'll get it fixed, or I'll reimburse the city. And that was the end of it. And I actually never heard back from the city. They must have taken care of it on their own. But at that point, I got it off my conscience. And I know I paid the price for it, because I had the worst 2 weeks of my life. And so that's just part of that. So anyways, getting back to this vacuum, this funnel, this empty space that has to be filled. Really, guys, in the last episode, we were talking about goals. But if there's anything you really want to do that can have an instant impact on your life, that can change your business, change the course of your business, change the course of your career, it is the easiest thing and the quickest thing is just give of yourself. Go help out. Go play cards with the elderly at a community at a community center. Go pick up garbage. There's so many activities you can do that doesn't take a lot of time, and it doesn't take a lot of effort, and it's something you can do in, out, quick, and you bring good energy to yourself. You bring good energy to your business. And there's a quote that Les Brown says, and I'm gonna read it on the paper, because I want to make sure we get it right. And just to make the quote simple, I'm not going to refer to man or woman. I'm just going to refer to it as man. And it goes like, the quote I love so much, it just simply goes like this: Judge a man not by what he does, but that he doesn't have to do. And to judge the true quality of a man is to look at what he will do when nobody is watching. So I like I said, and I've mentioned this in prior episodes of me holding myself to higher standards, just because I'm the leader of my little bubble. I'm the leader of my group. I hold myself to higher standards because I want all of the people under me to hold themselves to higher standards. How many college coaches have you heard say that for their players, college football coaches say what their athletes do off the field is more important than what they do on the field, because what they do off the field has such a huge impact as to what they do on the field. Now, the quote that I read to really translate it is, judge a man by what does he do that he doesn't really have to do, but he still does it anyways. Like Brian Tracy says, we don't get credit for the things that we want to do when we want to do it. We don't get credit for that. Life doesn't give us credit. The universe doesn't give us credit. Infinite intelligence doesn't give us credit for that. By doing the things that we want to do when we want to do it, I mean, that's just called a procrastinator, if you ask me, because we all have things that we have to do that we don't want to do. Now, we get credit for doing those things that need to be done, and we do it when we don't really want to do it. So that's judge the true character of a guy or woman that does what needs to be done, even when they don't want to do it. Now and then Les Brown takes it one step further and says, also judge the quality of that character, of that man or woman. What do they do when nobody is looking? Now that's the thing. I always there's times where I'm driving down the freeway and I see somebody pulled over, and there's a split second that says, pull over and help them. Well, I can't, I'm late to an appointment. Or there's that, I'm walking through the Walmart parking lot and there's a pile of trash there, and there's that split second that tells me, pick up that garbage. Now, if I step over that garbage and I continue into the store, it's definitely going to haunt me for the rest of the day. And there's actually been times where I'm walking through a parking lot and I see wood or something, a spike or a nail or something, and I step over it, and I walk, take about 10, 20 steps, and I ask myself, what in the world is wrong with you? I turn around like a fool, walk back, grab the garbage, grab the nail, grab the stick, throw it in the garbage, and I felt like, it makes me feel good, and I did the right thing. And I keep the polarity, I feel like I keep the polarity of the universe on track. So anyways, that's all I got for now. These were a few episodes that my sidekick, Funny Boy Shane, and I were really super excited about. Hopefully it's helpful. I know I've rambled on and on and on and on for a while now, but these were 3 episodes I was super excited to do. Get it out there, keep learning, keep growing. Ramsey's Rockin' Roads. Peace out, guys.